Our lead story tonight coming from a book and revelation that perhaps, Vishnu, that's why there's so much focus when secretaries of state, foreign ministers, diplomats write books, because really this shows that how close India and Pakistan came to nuclear war in 2019. Tell us the details.
Absolutely frightening. In fact, let's bring you a few more details about this. In fact, India and the United States, in a new book written by the former US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, he indicates that the US and India were on the verge of a nuclear exchange in 2019 when, right after the Balakot attack, in which India struck a Pakistani terrorist camp. He says he received a phone call from the then Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj alerting him of the possibility of Pakistan preparing for nuclear strikes. But there's a lot more in that book as well. We'll come to that. But here are the key bits. Mike Pompeo writes, I don't think the world properly knows just how close India and Pakistan's rivalry came to spilling over into a nuclear conflict in February 2019. I was woken up in Hanoi, Vietnam to talk to Sushma Swaraj, and that ultimately after that conversation he spoke to the actual leader of Pakistan, then the Army Chief General Bajwa. No nation could have done what we did that night to avoid a horrible outcome. Sushma Swaraj believed that the Pakistanis were preparing for a nuclear strike and that India was contemplating its own escalation. Now, elsewhere in the book, however, Pompeo says that he never considered Sushma Swaraj, the late minister, as an important political player, though he did get along with S. Jaishankar and worked closely with the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Now, controversially, Pompeo writes about a conversation on Sushma Swaraj with references to her being a goofball and as a heartland political hack. My original counterpart, he says, was not an important player on the Indian foreign policy team. Now, this has had some pretty strong reactions. The External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has reacted. He says, I always held her in great esteem and had an exceptionally close and warm relationship with her. I deplore the disrespectful colloquialism used for her.
Let's go across the other big headlines. Well, India-Egypt ties are now a strategic partnership coming as part of India's outreach to the Arab world. Also, the Prime Minister Modi and India asking Egypt to join the Global South Alliance during the G20 presidency. Prime Minister Modi, speaking today at a joint press conference, said that India and Egypt agree that terrorism is the most serious threat to humanity.
The first ever chief guest from Egypt for India's Republic Day, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, was given a ceremonial welcome on Wednesday. A country that enjoys good ties with both the US and China and has taken a fairly neutral stand on India in the OIC, where India has accused Pakistan of trying to push its agenda, New Delhi elevated its ties with Cairo to the level of a strategic partnership with a clear focus on security, counter-terrorism and economy.
भारत और इजिप्ट दुनिया भर में हो रहे आतंकवाद के प्रसार से चिंतित है। हम एकमत है कि आतंकवाद मानवता के लिए सबसे गंभीर सुरक्षा खतरा है। दोनों देश इस बात पर भी सहमत हैं कि क्रॉस बॉर्डर टेररिज्म को समाप्त करने के लिए ठोस कार्रवाई आवश्यक है।
India has also invited Egypt as a guest for the G20 summit under India's presidency in September. Egypt also participated in the Voice of the Global South virtual summit organized by India this month.
मैंने प्रधानमंत्री जी को वर्ष 2023 के लिए भारत के G20 समिट की मेजबानी में होने वाले सभा में भाग लेने के लिए आमंत्रण देने के लिए अपना आभार प्रकट किया और धन्यवाद दिया है और उन्हें आश्वासन दिया है कि मिस्र एक रचनात्मक दिशा में वार्ता को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए प्रयास में कोई भी कसर नहीं छोड़ेगा।
Egypt has been India's traditional trading partner from Africa. Bilateral trade stood at $7.26 billion in 2021-22, which was 75% higher than the previous year. India and Egypt established diplomatic ties within 4 days of India's independence on the 18th of August 1947. Since then, the relationship has been satisfactory. However, with a keen renewed focus on West Asia and the Arab world at the moment, the attention has been increased. For instance, despite an embargo on the export of wheat last year, India made an exception for Egypt in May, allowing the lifting of 61,000 tons of wheat in 3 tranches. Egypt, that traditionally buys wheat from Ukraine and Russia, was facing a tough time in view of the war and also lifted a ban on Indian wheat to allow for that import to take place. India too stepping in at a time when it crucially needed the supply during a time of food shortage. In New Delhi, Maha Siddiqui for NDTV.
Thanks, Maha. But let's move now to what's happening in Indian politics. There's always excitement with 9 state elections this year and then, of course, Mission 2024. So, Ankit, a big shift in focus for the BJP now, a special focus in the run-up to 2024. What's the details?
Well, there are several plans that the Bharatiya Janata Party is working on, and part of that plan is the Mission 60 that the BJP minority cell specifically is focusing on. This comes after Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the National Executive said that they should reach out to all sections of the society, including the minorities, whether they vote for the BJP or not. Now, what is happening is that the BJP minority cell has identified 60 seats which have more than 30% minority population. These 60 seats are spread across 10 states and union territories. In fact, the maximum of these come from Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal, 13 each. And then, of course, there are other states like Kerala and Assam where 6 seats are being targeted. And then Jammu and Kashmir, 5 seats. And, of course, other states as well. 4 in Bihar, 3 in MP, 2 each in Telangana and Haryana, and 1 each in Maharashtra and Lakshadweep. Now, the focus on these 60 seats of the minority cell is to identify 5,000 ambassadors from the minority communities, which can then act as message bearers of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's his government work towards the minorities across the section. They are also looking to start some two-wheeler yatras and sneh yatras, outreach programs. They will also try and meet, in fact, doctors and other influential people from the minority communities. And in May, we are told that in Delhi, there is going to be a big rally of all these 5,000 ambassadors from all of these 60 constituencies. So a big rally where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing these people. The focus of the Bharatiya Janata Party is to make sure that their no-go minority areas are also open as far as the BJP is concerned ahead of the 2024 elections.
So very interesting shift there, Ankit. And of course, is coming also the RSS also expanding its outreach to Muslim intellectuals. So let's see how that actually plays out. But meanwhile, news coming in from the Congress party as Rahul Gandhi is hitting the last leg of his Bharat Jodo Yatra. Some bad news coming in terms of Congress unity with A.K. Antony's son, Anil Antony. Remember, A.K. Antony was a close confidant, a mentor to earlier Congress President Sonia Gandhi and to Rahul Gandhi. His son, Anil Antony, has quit the Congress, calling it a darbar of chamchas. This came after Anil Antony claimed that he was pressured to retract his tweet where he had said that Rahul Gandhi should not support a BBC documentary series on Prime Minister Modi.
Another Gen X Congress leader calls it quits. Party veteran A.K. Antony's son, Anil Antony, left the Congress on Wednesday after a critical tweet on the party's stand on the BBC's documentary on Prime Minister Modi. Antony Jr. said he was upset at the threats and abuses he got after this tweet, where he had asked the party to be cautious in its stand on the BBC documentary where it was emanating from. He added that he did not consult his father before the decision.
No, this is my personal decision which I had taken after a lot of thought, and I do think this is the best course of action, but I haven't discussed this with anybody, including my father, because I did think that end of the day I should make my own call on this.
Anil's exit is particularly embarrassing for the party as Rahul Gandhi has publicly called A.K. Antony his guru. Without naming Party General Secretary K.C. Venugopal, Anil attacked the coterie around Rahul Gandhi.
Coming from a place where my father has been working in this organization for the last 6 decades. So coming from such a background and a place, like I do feel that whatever happened in the last 24 hours, especially from certain corners of the Congress, has not been the best of any responses, and I do think that at this point, it is the best course of action.
Rahul Gandhi has termed those leaving the party as riff-raff, while Congress has officially not reacted to the latest exit. Another disgruntled leader, Shashi Tharoor, who recently contested for the presidential elections and has started a mass contact program in Kerala, disagrees.
Well, I haven't, as I said, I have not spoken to Anil. He is somebody I have good regard for. He's a bright young man with I hope some very, very constructive ideas. Doesn't mean we have to agree on everything all the time. On this particular issue, I would not agree that our sovereignty is so easily affected. But as far as his resignation is concerned, he has not discussed it with me, so I don't think it's right for me to comment.
The BJP was quick to point out the double standards in the Congress about tolerating dissent.
I don't want to comment and make it political, but I certainly think it's very sad that a young idealist Indian who says what is obviously an incontrovertible truth is hounded out of the world's, India's oldest party.
For the Congress, Anil's resignation couldn't have come at a worse time. Immediately after the controversial remarks of Digvijay Singh and Rahul Gandhi reaching the finishing point of his over 3,500 kilometer yatra. The divide and the rumblings of the party are far from over.
Meanwhile, across campuses, the left-back student unions are trying to screen the BBC documentary series. Today, there's an attempt by the Students' Federation of India. Students from that, it's a left-back union at Jamia University. However, the university administration said it was not allowed to screen the documentary, and at least 10 students were detained by the Delhi police. They're likely to be released later this evening. Heavy security at Jamia University this evening. However, tomorrow, left-back unions, both in Kolkata and in Kerala and Thiruvananthapuram, have said that they will be screening the documentary series. There's been no official reactions from the state governments in Kerala and West Bengal yet. Well, in major news from tomorrow, Republic Day, all judgments delivered by the Supreme Court will now be translated into 4 languages: Hindi, Tamil, Gujarat and Oriya. This, as the Chief Justice said, in the current system, judgments in English are only understood by 0.1% of the population.
And the issue will be decided in the other proceeding.
A decades-old practice of the Supreme Court will end on Thursday.
Otherwise, it will be difficult. You can't set aside as if it's an appellate court.
Judgments will no longer be in English alone, but also translated into 4 languages: Hindi, Tamil, Gujarati and Oriya.
These are initiated for translation of the judgments of the Supreme Court in regional languages. Because we must understand that the language which we use, namely English, is a language which is not comprehensible, particularly in its legal avatar, to 99.9% of our citizens. In which case, really, access to justice cannot be meaningful unless citizens are able to access and understand in a language which they speak and comprehend.
8 and 11 are
identical. Says that much.
The judgments will be translated using machine learning, overseen by a sitting judge, and translated versions of the judgments will be made available simultaneously along with English versions.
Together, we are now creating a team whereby they will use machine learning for the translation of Supreme Court judgments in various Indian languages. We are now tapping into the talent of retired judicial officers who will be paid by the Supreme Court from out of its own resources to verify whether the translation has been done correctly.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi welcomed the move. On Republic Day, the Supreme Court is likely to make available 1,268 translated judgments in regional languages as part of the initiative by former Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi in 2019 to make judgments accessible in local languages. With Arvind Gunasekar in Delhi, Bureau Report, NDTV.
So big and welcome change there. But meanwhile, the other big headline tonight, well, there's now a women's IPL and the first 5 teams are out. Rika, tell us the latest.
Well, Sonia, there were 2 big stories today and both of them involved Shah Rukh Khan. One was the release of Pathan, where King Khan clearly won. In the other, King Khan and his team lost. They bid for the Kolkata franchise for 666 crore rupees but couldn't get the team. However, here are the other franchises who won teams today. The Ahmedabad franchise was won by the Adani Group for 1,280 crore rupees. Reliance picked up the Mumbai franchise. Royal Challengers Bangalore picked up the Bangalore franchise. JSW, GMR taking Delhi, and Capri Global, they are a new entrant. They have picked up the Lucknow franchise. Together, they gave BCCI about 4,700 crore rupees. But having said that, the average value of the teams is of the women's team are the men's team are 7 times more than the average value of the women's team. There on your graphics you will see. But it's a good news overall for the women's IPL, women's sports ecosystem, because it's not just this money, but the women cricketers are now going to get a prize purse from their respective franchises. The auction will take place next week. 12 crore rupees have been earmarked to each team as auction purse, and the women's IPL will kick off around 3rd or 4th of March.